Hey, Sun Devil fans, Brad Denny with 3TV, CBS 5, and the Speak of the Devils podcast, bringing you another Speak of the Devils Sitdown series episode, where I bring you in-depth one-on-one conversations with key players, coaches, and other figures within Sun Devil athletics. The rebuild of Sun Devil football is entering year 2 under Kenny Dillingham. Last season was full of adversity, but through the wave of injuries, external obstacles, and a bowl ban, there were some promising signs, and perhaps the most promising development was the play of the defense. In his first year as Arizona State's defensive coordinator, Valley native Brian Ward oversaw a unit that flashed some serious potential, highlighted by the masterful performance against the Washington Huskies. Now, there were some late season struggles and some inconsistent play, but armed with a season of experience in the scheme and a wave of talented newcomers, Ward's group should be primed for bigger things in the Big 12 this fall. On this episode, Brian and I discuss how the scheme is coming along in year 2, the likely adjustments that will be needed to be made for Big 12 football, the next wave of team leaders, how each level of the defense is coming along, his new favorite Valley burrito spot, and much more. So let's get to it. Here's my conversation with Brian Ward. All right, Brian. So on our podcast last year, you had just gotten back to the Valley, and you mentioned that you were looking forward to reconnecting with Filiberto's and some of the other Valley spots. Have you had a chance to get a burrito or two over your time here?
I have, but I have to confess, I've become a Sombreros fan. So I went to the old school Ponchos, down in South Phoenix, and my daughter actually plays volleyball with the granddaughter of the founder of Ponchos. So they also opened up all those sombreros. So my wife and I have become sombreros fans now. I will definitely go to Filiberto's, but once I'm back here now, so I'm finding the right spots to go to when I have if I got a hankering for something.
So overall, just how good has it been to be back home in the Valley now? Over a year, and it's kind of getting back to the roots.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, it really is a dream come true for my family and I, and we just love it here, and this really is home for us, and being back home, there really is no place like home. And when you've been different places that we've been and the journeys that we've been on, we really don't take for granted any of this time that we have here.
So Kenny made some headlines a couple weeks ago with the video game prank, but and there's a lot of good fun. Coach Mons mentioned that the coaching staff didn't even know, and just kind of a lot of good times out there. And as Kenny likes to say, you guys are having fun while also working the hardest of any team in the country. What do you think? Just that now it's year 2 of the culture that you guys are trying to implement, and just you have a lot of returning players, some returning faces. But where do you see that vibe and that culture of the Sun Devil football program coming along now that more than a year in?
Well, there's no saying in football. It goes, the level of your leadership is a reflection only in the locker room. You know what I mean? And basically, us as coaches, we're gonna set the course and we're gonna give the direction. But ultimately, behind closed doors, in that locker room is where, the most important ingredients are in the direction of your program. So, that's the one thing is, I know much is to be made about, the pieces that we've added. And we definitely have added some very good pieces and a lot of experienced guys, experienced players. High character guys who are leaders in their own right, but really it's that foundation from last year. We're looking to make that, and because of them, we're looking to make that second year jump. And those guys that were here and that went through that first year together, learning, just what our expectations was, the standards, and some of the things that we were working towards, that we that Kenny's vision, and what his vision for this program was going to be. Those guys are basically laying the groundwork, and those are the cornerstones. And that's why we're able to do a lot of the things that we're doing, especially defensively, is because of those guys that we went through. We went through 12 weeks of last season's grind with.
So before we look about the path ahead, want to talk about last season a little bit. I mean, overall, just have you ever been a part of a season was so unusual? Just obviously the unprecedented number of injuries and just kind of a lot of external factors and the stuff that was thrown at the program. What was that experience like? Just going through a year with so many random twists and turns.
Well, I mean, it really, I like to tell people, like, for 8 weeks, it was, at least for me personally, um, it was enjoyable, because there were times I felt like we were growing defensively, and guys were understanding what the expectations were and where the standards were. And it was a challenge. I mean, if I put all the 12 months together, it was really like we were, running into a headwind, or swimming upstream. But when we came to the season, there were some good things that were happening during the season, and that we were actually building towards. But I mean, I don't know how many times I've been in that situation where it was the first year of a program, but I can tell you unequivocally, every place I've ever been where it was the first year, it's filled with numerous challenges, and not one bigger than the other, because all of them accumulate, and it's we could be here all day talking about strategic change, and change management, and how do you manage change, and all those different things, and that's really what it is. And a lot of times people just see a football team and they just see the product on the field, and they see the end result, look at the score, and they think that is um, symptomatic of everything that's going on in the program, and the work that's being put into it. And I can say, we put a lot of work into last season, and so did the players, but it's hard to win. And especially in the first year, when the culture really hasn't been set in stone, the standard hasn't hardened into concrete, and you're having to deal with all those challenges without any real foundation. And we knew that was going to happen, and we were prepared for it. And that's why I feel like we're at where we're at right now, is we just nonstop and just putting one foot in front of the other and continuing whatever challenge came. We're just going to meet it head on. Whether it was, it could have been anything. We were just going to continue to move forward, and keep, that vision that we had, at the forefront.
The Washington game obviously was one of the highlights of the season, and keeping one of the nation's most explosive offenses without a score or not a touchdown in that game. What do you think that impact of that performance was, especially adding the on the road factor, one of the most hostile places to play in the Pac-12 conference? Did you see players maybe have kind of a proof of concept moment, or just take some extra confidence from that performance of shutting down the Huskies, and perhaps that has an impact moving forward in the future?
And that, I think, like, when we're talking about, like, setting standards and what the standard is, and playing one of the best offenses in the country that tight, and giving our team, an opportunity or a chance to win, up in that environment against a great team like that, that really it happened in year one, where we really kind of set that expectation. Um, but with success comes responsibility, and our guys really didn't know how to deal with that kind of success, and you could see it. We had probably one good half and one good game left in us, with 4 games left to play in the season, or 5 games left to play in the season, and you have 5 games left. We play one really good half of football against Washington State, and then we play 4 quarters against UCLA. But then against Utah, Oregon, and Arizona, we didn't play 1 quarter of good football on defense. So it's good to have games like that against quality opponents, and having great performances. And really, up to that point, we played pretty well in most of our games, and that was, I think, the Washington game was, I think, the 7th game of the year. We were pretty consistent on defense, and we were consistently playing well for stretches. For stretches in games, and but the week after that, we play a bad opening half against Washington State, so we didn't handle the success that we had against Washington. And then the week after we beat Washington State, we don't handle winning well, and go up to Utah and don't play that play probably, I would say arguably our worst game, you know, against an opponent that really wasn't lighting it up on offense. And then we come back and we really should have shut out UCLA, in the Rose Bowl. And they scored with 4 minutes left to go in the game. And then you come back and we don't play well in the first half against Oregon, and just they kind of coast in the second half, and then we come and play our rivalry game the way we did. So it's one of those things that we know what the standard is, and that's what's really driven us this and driven our leaders this offseason. And they know what it can look like when it looks right. And they're also very aware, our leadership is, of any symptoms or any dysfunction that could lead to an outcome like that again. And right now our players are taking ownership of it, and that's all you want as a coach. Is you're going to lay the process, you're going to lay the plan down, you're going to lay what to do, how to do it, and why we're doing it. You're going to constantly coach and reinforce the principles, to your defense or your position group. But ultimately, when the guys take ownership of it and they are like, hey, they can recognize things when it doesn't look right, that's when you're really going to make your biggest jump. And I know that I'm speaking for defense. That's why I feel like, we can make that jump this year.
Of course, going through a season where the offense was just so banged up, and on the offensive line, quarterback, tight ends and running backs are getting starts at quarterback. From a defensive perspective, knowing that perhaps they're trying to work things out and go through all those injuries, how did that impact your approach on defense, knowing that perhaps the margin of error, the margin that you have, was pretty thin?
Yeah, it's the offense does their best, and they know that and they feel their responsibility to win. To win the games is to is to score points, and you know yeah, great defenses. If you look at the great defense, and I look at it every year, like the teams that are top defenses in the country, they almost always have a top 10 offense, and they go hand in hand. And great offense lends itself to good defense, but I think great defense lends itself to good offense. I think they work hand in hand. Can't be great on defense without a good offense, because if an offense isn't scoring points, then offenses can play keep away. They can manage the game, and that's what I believe that we're going to see a lot of in the Big 12. I just believe we're going to see a lot of situational play calling. Less trying to win in track meets, less trying to win by putting 40 points up a game like I've seen the last 2 years in the Pac-12. I think we're going to see a lot of clock management, a lot of possession management, a lot of a lot more. Hey, we're here. Hey, we're going to punt the football, make the offense go the long hard way. A lot of field position management, and you look at the games from last year. You see a lot of tight games. You see a lot of games that are won and lost within 10 points. Not a lot of blowouts. In the Big 12, a lot of games under 30 points. And we experienced that against Oklahoma State, last year. So it's very that type of game. I just feel like that's where that's where I feel like we're gonna make it. We're gonna make a jump. I just really do defensively, and I think a lot of it's gonna have to do is because of our offense. I think our offense can be much improved.
How did you grow as a coach last year, going through a difficult year in the win-loss column, and just kind of a lot of things, as you mentioned, kind of in the year one of building a program, there's a lot of challenges. So you're going through those. How do you feel like you're a better coach today than you were a year ago at this point?
Well, it goes. That's one of the things. It's funny you asked that. I just had this conversation with a coach that I coached with for a number of years before, and I just said that's the beauty of. We're really in a system. Just our defense. It's a system. It's a family of coaches. We all run, similar terminology, similar vocabulary, and I've run in the same system really since 2005. I can say probably when I was at Syracuse, I probably broke a little bit of it the first couple years, because I felt like our personnel didn't match what we did, and it was, you know, it didn't work out. I mean, it was one of the 2 years that I started grab bagging from other systems that really didn't fit into what we were doing. So, um, that's the one thing is when you stay consistent to your principles and what you do on defense, then you find better ways to teach it, coach it. You find better applications to it. You find better ways to communicate it, and also, that's a reflection of the players on the field. They're able to do those things, and as we get into this headset era and being able to communicate with players on the field, that's going to be even more critical. And so, in terms of my growth, I think the biggest thing that I came out of last season, and this is after 26 years of coaching. Everybody likes to use the term remember November. Everyone remembers November. Well, the people outside the program always remember, the final score and, the final record of that team. Okay. Well, people remember November because, after 3 straight months, I mean, you're talking all of August, all of September, all of October. They've been gone 3 straight months. These players and these coaches, they've gone 3 straight months of no days off. Being at the facility at 7 a.m., 6 a.m. every morning. They get basically one day off a week, and that's the day after a game. And when November rolls around, it's the teams that are able to apply themselves Monday through Friday that are that are going to be the best on Saturday, and the teams that are able to apply themselves in that way during the week are the teams that are going to be the best, on Saturday in November, and those are the teams that are going to finish the seasons the way they should. And we rolled into November last year with no bowl game opportunities, no winning season opportunities. The upperclassmen and the returners, they had no, they feel like they had as much to prepare for during the week. Now our guys were ready to play on Saturday, but in terms of the attention to detail and all those things during the week, it showed on Saturday. So, with the exception of the Rose Bowl game, but being able to sustain that's what the special teams are able to do. And the teams that are able to show that attention to detail in November, the same as they do in September, are the teams that ultimately are the special teams. And that's something that's going to be a challenge once we come upon it, because we got enough challenges in September and October and getting these guys ready in August. But that's the biggest thing that I learned is, we got to find different ways to motivate. I'm talking about defense because of how, we played one great week and then 2 really poor weeks in November this past year. So it's something that's going to challenge me and something I'm not going to forget.
Going through a debut season as a head coach, like Kenny did at a young age, but also just so many external things, and then the injuries and everything on top of that. How did you see him as a young coach navigate those waters? And how did you, as a veteran guy, as you mentioned, been doing this 26 years, how did you and some of the other staff kind of help guide him through some of the difficult times, and like that any coach is going to have in their first year at the helm?
That's interesting. That's an interesting question. I've never really thought about that. I just know, I think, being around, the coaches that he's been around, and, my similar experiences or our similar experiences is once you're in the season, you really can't dwell on what just happened. You really have to work, dwell on what's important now. And I think of all things, like Kenny did, that's where he did his best job, in my opinion, is he didn't dwell on what was happening, or if we played poorly, or if something didn't happen, or if we lost a tight game. Yeah, he felt the pain, but he knew the most important thing was, hey, we got to continue to move forward. And as I stated before, we've always kept, and that's the thing, we've always kept our vision and our eyes forward. What I'm saying, and whatever adversity we've dealt with, we've had it, and he met it head on, and he communicated with the staff. He asked questions when he needed to, but always giving a direction and saying, hey, listen, we're going to deal with this and move forward. Deal with that, move forward. an adversity comes, hey, we're going to take it head on. If we got to take 2 steps back, we take 2 steps back. If we got to take 2 steps to the side, that's just what we do. So, and really just keeping your eyes really moving forward. And if you see everything that's happened since our last game this past season, I mean, it really does feel like, the first year it was swimming upstream. We're running into a headwind. You can use every cliche possible, but, since that last game of the season, you can constantly see the improvement. Not only the players, not only our roster, but the coaches being on the same page. And I know this is all great, but because when we get into the season, we're going to be in the thick of it. But I'm telling you, it really does feel like the second year.
So off the field, the Activate the Valley movement continues, and obviously the resources. College football and college sports is such a resource game, and it seems like there, things are starting to generate some positive momentum in terms, off the field. Graham Rossini now at the helm of the athletic department. Overall, whether it's Activating the Valley in terms of like local recruiting or the relationships, or just kind of furthering Arizona State's imprint in the community and in the fan base, how do you think things are going? After year one and heading into year two.
Like I said, I mean, I think in every area, from recruiting to local relationships with high school coaches, we're getting on the same page in terms of what our vision is and, how we see Arizona State and how, we should be viewed, or we feel like we should be viewed, and also how those coaches should be viewed, and their role in helping their student athletes move on, and also, them being the guys that we have interested in being a part of our program moving forward. So it just seems like everything is starting to get on the same page, and we're taking steps forward, and you can see improvements in almost every area, and us taking those steps forward. And we're not patient. Okay, none of us would be accused of being patient, and whether it be recruiting or coaching or the success that we want to have. And we're not going to go into any game hoping something works out. I mean, we're going to be going in with a plan, and a plan to be successful. And it's no different in recruiting. It's no different in our plan to activate the valley, and get people in the stands, and recruit local talent. Shooting in all the other areas that we're recruiting. So it's things are just starting to come together, and we're continuing to move forward.
One change on your staff from last season. You have a new D-line coach in Dyron Reynolds, and a guy who obviously has a pretty impressive resume is what he's been able to do in his career, and the Pass Rush Summit, the players I've talked to during spring seemed really excited to be able to learn from him and his technique. Why was he the right choice, and what impact have you seen from on your defensive linemen so far?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things. I mean, one, getting Dyron here has just been, we've been really fortunate, and he has a reputation in our industry as being one of the top guys in our profession, just based not only on his resume but what his former players say about him. The product that he's been able to put on the field. The amount of coaches that have coached underneath him that are coaching at the Division 1A level, guys who've GA'd for him, guys who played for him, that are actually coaching right now, not only at this level but also in the NFL. I mean, it's really amazing. And he would never tell you any of that, because he's one of the most humble guys you've ever met. And his reputation speaks for itself. And we've gotten recruits because of his reputation. We've had guys choose other programs, yeah, because of that, because of other guys in our profession literally telling guys like, listen, this is the guy you want to go play for. And that holds a lot of weight, especially in this day and age where kids are very well read, they're well researched, and the guys that truly want to be great, they're going to look at what that coach's resume is, and who's going to be my position coach. That means something. That means something. It's a big deal in recruiting. Okay, and a lot of coaches work hard in recruiting. A lot of coaches build relationships. A lot of coaches make phone calls and text and do those things. But ultimately, those kids, a lot of those kids, especially the type of kids that we're going to want, to come play for us on our defense at ASU, those guys are going to be well read, and they're going to look and see, hey, how many guys does this guy put in the NFL compared to Coach Reynolds? How many guys What is this guy's reputation in the profession? You know what I mean? Is he a coach? Is this guy going to develop me? Is he going to make me better? Um, it just speaks volumes. And the guys in the room that that he's coaching, I'm telling you, like, they love him and they already feel how much better he is. And like I said, you'd never hear that from him because he'd never say, he's never going to talk about himself. He's one of the most humble guys I know, but his pedigree speaks for itself.
Now, looking back at spring ball, what did you feel were some of the biggest gains, collectively from your defense over the course of those 15 practices? And obviously, year two, a lot of those guys are feeling a little bit more comfortable in the system.
Yeah, I mean, just I always tell our guys, you got to find out what to do. We're going to teach you how to do it, and once you know what to do and how to do it, the biggest jump is knowing why you do it and being able to, um, connect the dots, piece the puzzle together, and connect situations to our calls and being able to communicate to the guy next to you, and everybody being on the same page, and being able to anticipate. And those are the things that I can't even tell you. Like, those are the most important, like, qualities to being a great defensive player, is knowing why we're running a certain call at a specific moment in a specific situation, and anticipating what's coming. Because something I tell our guys all the time. Okay, play one thing, react to another. Like, if you're reacting to everything, then you're always going to be a step behind. And we know, like, defense, by and large, you're going to be reacting to what the offense does. But offenses, they have an element of predictability to them, and being able to zero in on when they are predictable and being able to play and anticipate something is going to give you the extra step, half a step, or even two steps on a play that's going to help you make the big play. And so, continuing to give our offense or our defense looks, and those looks, to be able to teach from those and help them grow, which is something we made big strides in the spring and we're continuing to make this summer. But also credit goes to Coach Arroyo and the offense. I mean, the looks that we're getting from our offense, are all of the looks that we need to see, and we're not having to. I'm not going into the season. It's good. There's going to be a few, but I won't be going into the season feeling like, okay, I'm practicing these looks on offense for the first time, and we're in the seventh, eighth, ninth week of the season, and hey, we're having to reinforce, and install things for the first time because we hadn't seen those looks, from our offense in spring ball or fall camp. And his willingness and his diversity on offense has just helped us so much to be able to get the looks that we need to see, especially because of the style of defense that we play. Offenses, by and large, they do a lot of the same stuff against us because of how they all see us. So, a lot of credit goes to our offense as well.
So looking at the year two in the system, historically, where have you seen maybe, having the returning cast and guys with that familiarity within the system? How does that impact kind of your approach to calling a defense and organizing, scheming up a defense, knowing that, as you just mentioned, these guys are feeling more comfortable. They know the why of what they're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. It's always a balance, and it's going to be the balance of, it's a balance. I mean, it's are we going to be able to match up? That's the first thing. Like, how do we match up against an opponent? Well, the better you match up, the simpler you get. Um, the more equal the matchup, the more creative you need to be, and the more dialed in you need to be. If you don't feel like you match up in certain areas, well, that's when you need to be unique, and that's when you need to become I believe, a great play caller. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I have to put a little more on our guys' plates. Um, and I feel like we have, and the thing that's driving that right now for us defensively is, to me, competition drives performance. You have a bunch of alphas, alpha male guys coming in, they're all competing and want to play. Well, that creates an incredibly competitive culture. and guys aren't going to get comfortable because they know if they get comfortable, they're going to get passed up. And we literally have that at all three levels of our defense, the D line, linebackers, and the secondary. And guys are competing every single day. So that competition is going to drive performance. And I just believe that's an element that is undervalued, and I can see it with this group, and it's fun to watch because these guys are a very hungry group.
You mentioned the Big 12 looks like it might be more, a kind of closer games, competitive, maybe a little bit more field position in terms of the types of games that we might be playing. A lot of games maybe in the 20s or even lower. What kind of adjustments or differences in approach, going from last year scheming up the wide open Pac-12 to playing these Big 12 teams that are you gonna have to make with your defense, and how do you think that maybe some of your roster right now is suited to playing these these closer field position type of games?
I mean, it's a great question. I think games like that. I mean, I think we've recruited really, really well. We've gotten bigger up front. We have more depth up front. We're more physical. I feel like, and again, we've just cleaned up a lot of things that maybe gave us trouble, especially later in the year, because we're very aware of some of the things that we were deficient at. I'm not talking about just player wise either. I'm talking about with our scheme and things that we felt like teams schemed our personnel up. We've come up with we've been able to install and been able to correct some of those mistakes. And you're right. It is going to be a different league. I mean, when you're talking about from last year, the Washingtons, the USC's, the Washington States, the Oregons, the University of Arizona's. I mean, they're them scoring over 35 points a game was a pretty much constant each week, and they were doing that with the idea, hey, we're going to outscore people, and whereas the Big 12 is, hey, we're going to stop the run, we're going to play good defense, we're going to put teams, we're going to kick field goals, we're going to punt, make people go the long hard way. Because we're not going to spread it out as much, and we're not going to take shots down the field and try to put that pressure. What they're trying to do is trying to manage the game. They're trying to wear teams down so they can win in the fourth quarter. And I've coached in two leagues like that before, where it was every game was it was 10-point games the whole way through. You know what I mean? You're never out of a game, and it's going to come down to a lot of things, and a lot of things that are going to be managed, and so it's going to be exciting. I think we fit well. I think Coach Dillingham has done a good job of managing this roster and giving our recruiting initiatives to be able to fill different spots and on both sides of the ball. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens.
As we wind down here, I want to get your thoughts on some of the position groups, starting at defensive tackle. And just watching spring practices, it seemed like CJ Fight's really well positioned to maybe make a second year jump, and some of the newcomers, Jeff Clark and Jacob Kangaika, JP Dieter seem to be turning things on later in camp. What's your overall impression of kind of the interior of the defensive line right now?
Yeah, it's fun to watch those guys. I mean, like I said, we were able to recruit, and we were able to add size and depth and playing experience and I mean everything in that room. So that's just it's I can't even tell you how excited I am about this group. They're full of high character guys, and guys that are super competitive, and it's fun because that room is really coming together right now, and they're full of characters, and they're a lot of fun just to kind of just sit back and listen to and observe. But I'm excited about that group. We have a number of players that can make big impacts for us this year, and I'm excited to see how camp plays out.
And looking at the edge spots, defensive end, and it seems like a pretty good tandem there. And Clayton Smith and Prince Dorba, Elijah O'Neal was flashing. Justin Watley seemed to be making some noise in spring practices. It looks like it might be has some versatility to play inside and out. Overall, how do you feel you're currently set at edge?
Man, we're bigger, and those guys you talked about, Clayton and Prince, they're bigger and stronger by about 15 pounds apiece right now than they were a year ago. Those guys are going to be a problem. Elijah O'Neal, he's up to 250, 255. He's up 10 to 15 pounds of what he was at last year, and just he's moving really, really well. Watley's come in. He's brought a lot of experience. He's going to be a problem for a lot of people. We brought in Jamon Tapp from Texas. It's another big guy. Another, Roman Petrie, came in. I mean, we're just bigger. We're deeper at that position. I expect great things out of that edge position this year.
Moving to linebacker, of course, and guys with some experience last year, and Tate Romney. Caleb McCullough has been around the program for a while, veteran presence, but a trio of newcomers as well. What were your thoughts on what you saw from the linebackers in spring, and how do you see that battle, for those two jobs, kind of playing out in fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, we just got a great room, and I always say this, like Caleb and Tate, those guys really helped in terms of the culture that was really kind of set in that room, the work ethic, the character, the selflessness, all those things. They set the foundation in that room, and adding Keyshawn Crook and Zyrus into that room, is just added to that. You got you also got Kavion Thunderbird and Crew Jackson in there, and you just got just high quality, not only players, but you got human beings, and those guys just do things right. And I just feel great about the depth in that room, and I feel great about the playmakers in that room too. So, like I said, it's very, very similar to defensive tackle. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot different, than our defensive tackle or our edge position. There's just going to be a lot of competition in those positions.
And moving to corner, Ed Woods, the veteran presence kind of moves on, but a lot of guys in there. Rodney Bimich was a kind of a breakout star in camp. A couple of newcomers, and LT Welch, and a guy pretty well, and Javon Robinson, Keith Abney, is experience in year two. How do you see the battle at corner playing out?
We have some really heady guys. We also have some talented guys, and so our challenge with those guys is to make our super talented guys become mentally adept to what we're doing, and for those guys who are mentally ready to play, for those guys to stay healthy. And it's gonna, right now those guys are continuing to develop. Keith Abney, has had a phenomenal spring and summer. Feel like he's going to make an impact somewhere in our secondary. Javon Robinson, is familiar with our system, but then you brought in LT Welsh, who just got better and better and more comfortable playing corner for us. And then you got, some talented freshmen in Rodney Bimich and Tony and Kuba. And, I'm just excited about these guys. I'm excited about this group. We have, the speed, the athleticism, the length. There's also some tough dudes in that room. But these guys are just symptomatic of the culture and the changes that we've been able to improve upon. I feel like in this last year and this last off season, I'm just excited about that group.
And then at nickel, a guy, Mason Williams, who's been around the program for a number of years. Cole Martin, another local guy coming home, and highly touted recruit, and seems to be getting more comfortable in the system as spring went on. How do you see the situation at nickel? I believe Keith Abney also has the ability to play there as well.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, that's the beauty of what we're doing right now is I got all three safeties in my room, the nickel, the free, and the strong, and so I coach all those guys to learn the whole system and the whole defense, and we really are able to do it based on matchups and personnel. And I'm excited about our room. And Cole's working at nickel right now. Mason Williams, he's that guy that just brought the culture and kept the culture that we're trying, the foundation that trying to build from day one. And Mason's done that. And Cole came right in. He had the right mindset, the right work ethic. He just got better and better. Keith played some nickel. He's played some corner. Who knows where he's going to end up. But you got guys like Shamari Simmons. That's a guy that can play nickel. Xavier Alford can play nickel. I mean, there's several guys in our safety room that can play that nickel position. I feel real confident can go out there and execute for us.
And then the safeties, I feel almost like kind of the it's a situation like a running back. Just so many quality guys in depth in there, and Shamari's coming back as team MVP. Alford's finally going to be able to be unleashed in there, and then the depth there. Montana Warren, was on a great trend line before the injury as well. Miles coming in, Kamari. So how do you manage it? Such a kind of a, at least from the outside looking in, a pretty deep room of our group of safeties.
Well, the key is I manage it by keeping it competitive. And, we got a lot of great players in that room and guys that have the potential to be great. And we're going to just continue to develop those guys. And when it comes game day, game one, they're, our best guys back there may not be the same guys as we play in game three. Because everything's about matchups, in football, and we want to be able to match up, and we want our strength. We want to attack people's weaknesses, and we want to be able to minimize people's strengths. And, that's the beauty of it. I mean, some of these guys have very specific skill sets. Some of these guys have varying degrees, of different skill sets. So, I just feel great about Shamari. I feel great about Xavier Alford. I feel great about Miles Rouser. I feel great about, Kamari Wilson, Montana Warren. We got Cole who's playing, nickel, but we can move him. You know what I mean? Like we feel like we have some real guys back there, and it's going to keep it competitive because it's going to drive those guys to continue to improve. They're going to become even better than they believe. I think they can. So I don't think they understand what they're capable of, and that's us as a defense. I think they maybe undersell or undervalue that. I mean, these guys are capable of doing anything they want this year, and I'm gonna make sure that they understand that.
Now with the defense, some guys moving on, like a Deshaun Mallory, veteran presence there. Who have you seen as kind of the next wave of leaders on your defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I mean, there's a number of them that I'll just say this, okay, that we need their level of leadership to be. If you go like John Maxwell's like leadership pyramid, you know what I mean? There's level one's the lowest, level 10 is the highest. We need 10s, and we need those guys to have the courage to confront, the confidence to step up, the character to, their nightlife needs to reflect their day life. Their selflessness has to be like, these guys have to know that they care about them. And they're not just coaching them, they're not just calling them out, but they also care about them. And they just also, and then finally, they got to have the consistency. You know what I'm saying? Like they got to be consistent in their approach every single day. And I think there's a few guys that have those qualities right now. And I'm not going to name them by name. They know who they are. But, if those guys step up, this season could be everything that they dreamed of.
And last one for you. Fall camp's just a few weeks away. The opener against Wyoming, August 31st. What do you want to see? What do you need to see in fall camp to get the feeling that your guys are ready to go to take on a difficult season ahead?
Well, I mean, if we take the approach that we normally do, and we continue to build upon, what we started this off season, we're going to be ready for that. We're going to be ready for whoever they put in front of us. We know that. So, the things that we can't control, like injuries and some of those things. If we can go into this season, healthy, we're already going to have a leg up from last season. You know what I mean? We're already going to have a leg up in terms of where we started at. So, us being able to improve, us being able to have guys in that leadership step up to where we need it to be, not wait for adversity to show up, but actually get guys to start leading even when it's easy and when it's comfortable and when it's in camp and everybody's enjoying being around each other, before the season starts. If we can get those leaders to have those qualities, to be able to step up and confront and to recognize dysfunction, we're going to have a great year, and we're going to have a great year defensively.
I'd like to thank Brian for taking the time to talk with me for this episode. Make sure you are subscribed to Speak of the Devils on the podcast platform of your choice for more great sit-down series episodes all off season long. I'll be talking to the entire Sun Devil football coaching staff, several key players, athletic director Graham Rossini, and many more. And also be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at bdenny29.